Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Greg Butterfield. I'm from the International Action Center in New York City, and I coordinate the Solidarity with Ukraine Antifascists Committee here. First, I want to say thank you to the organizers for inviting me to speak today, and thank all of you at the conference, especially, for your outspokenness and commitment to this challenging issue. It's no exaggeration to say that SARU has been at the forefront and the leading voice in the English-speaking world against the fascist violence in Ukraine and in Donbass. And all of us who work in solidarity with this struggle owe you a debt of gratitude. We envy the central role that trade unionists play in your ranks. Because of the long period of Cold War anti-communist repression in the U.S. labor movement, most unions here remain bound to the imperialist foreign policy of the Democrats and Republicans, even when they take a more militant stance on class struggle issues here at home. So we've been fortunate to get the support on this issue from two of the most militant labor organizations in the country, the International Longshore and Warehouse Union on the West Coast and the Boston School Bus Drivers Union. While there's been a significant growth of activism in the U.S. over the last few years, starting with Occupy Wall Street, the legacy of the McCarthy witch hunt continue to hinder organizing around any issue that's perceived as being related to Russia or Soviet history. And so we've had an uphill battle here to mobilize people, especially to come out in the streets, even in those movements and individuals who are sympathetic to Donbass resistance and the Ukrainian anti-fascists. One tactic we've used successfully is to hold joint actions that address the crisis in Ukraine and other U.S.-backed wars and interventions, such as Gaza and Venezuela. This has allowed us to begin building links and solidarity and understanding across different movements struggling against Western imperialism. In fact, the reason I'm sending this recorded message today is because as you're watching this, we're holding a joint protest outside CNN headquarters in New York against the war in Donbass and the Saudi bombing of Yemen. Of course, the biggest development in the U.S. in the past year has undoubtedly been the Black Lives Matter movement against police brutality and the murder of people of color by the state. Here, too, we're working to build links by pointing out that the same repressive measures and military hardware used against black and brown communities here at home are being used by the U.S.-backed regime in Kyiv and supplied by the same supplier, the Pentagon. While food assistance and other social welfare programs for the poorest, disproportionately people of color, are being gutted here in the U.S., billions of dollars are being spent by the Democrats and Republicans alike to keep the bankrupt regime in Kyiv afloat and armed to the teeth. And of course, in the event of a wider war between NATO and Russia, it's working class youth, again, disproportionately people of color, who will be sent to fight and die in that war. We joined with people all over the world in mourning the death of Ghost Brigade Commander Alexei Moskovoy. The response to this tragedy offers an important way forward for our movement, I believe. As the first international mobilization to follow the Anti-Fascist Caravan and the Donbass Solidarity Forum, the memorial actions around the date of Moskovoy's funeral were a great success, I think. Here in the U.S., it certainly helped our efforts to be part of an international day of action rather than acting in isolation. A rally of 25 people in New York by itself would not have had a large impact, but as part of dozens of other events across Europe and Russia, it did have an international impact. And it was important that we were able to show that there is solidarity with Donbass here in the belly of the beast. And it was also encouraging for the people around us who want to continue building on that momentum now. Finally, I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge the comrades from Bristol, who have become sort of folk heroes to us here in New York with their weekly actions outside the BBC, all sorts of weather, whether small numbers or large. You inspire us to do more. Thank you. We look forward to working with SARU and the international movement more closely in the coming weeks and months. Victory to the anti-fascists in Ukraine. No pasaran.